Now, what if I told you that for the price of two large pizzas, you can get hybrid active noise cancelling, 70 hours of battery life, and a sound signature that doesn't suck? Well, these are the One Audio Focus A1 Pro headphones, and at $35, they might be the most ridiculous value in portable audio right now. Now, I've been using them for 2 weeks straight, commuting, coffee shop sessions, gaming, late night listening, and today I'm going to tell you if they are actually worth your money or if this is just another case of you get what you pay for. So let's dive right in. Now, the One Audio Focus A1 Pro retails for $35, and you can grab them directly from One Audio's official website, link in the description below, or from Amazon, where they frequently go on sale for even less money. And at this price, I would say they are positioned as One Audio's entry level ANC option, sitting just below the Focus A6. Now let's run through the specs real quick. These feature hybrid active noise cancellation, rated up to 38 decibels, and they are powered by a 40 millimeter PET diaphragm dynamic driver on each cup, and they connect via Bluetooth 6.0 with multi-point support and weigh just 200 grams. Now the battery life is where things get crazy. It has 70 hours with ANC off and 40 hours with ANC on in terms of usage time. Now, that's nearly 3 days of continuous playback. And they also feature a gaming mode with 89 milliseconds of latency. It's got a USB-C charging port. The frequency range is 20 to 20,000 hertz, and they come in two colors: midnight black or black and red. Now, let's go through the accessories. In the box, you get the headphones themselves, a USB-C charging cable, and a user guide. Well, that's it. No carrying case, which is a shame given that this is a foldable design. But honestly, at $35, corners have to be cut somewhere, right? The included cables are basic but functional. Now, let's talk about the design and build quality. Now, these are utilitarian. The plastic construction is obvious when you handle them. There's minimal creaking or flexing. The metal headband provides a solid backbone, and the folding mechanism feels surprisingly sturdy for the price. There are control buttons which are physical and located on the right ear cup. Volume, power button, ANC toggle. As you guys know, I prefer physical buttons to touch controls. And also, the USB-C port is conveniently placed for charging. The plastic doesn't feel premium like the aluminum on the Focus A6. And I do wonder about long term hinge durability for these headphones. But for $35, the build quality is okay. Now, let's talk about fit and comfort. And this is where the on ear design becomes personal. These sit at a medium sized kind of category, larger than portable on ears, but not fully over ear. And for my medium sized ears, the fit is snug and secure. The clamping force is firm, which helps with passive isolation, but could become noticeably fatiguing during long listening sessions. So, about 90 minutes of listening, I start to feel pressure on the outer edges of my ears. It is not painful, but it's kind of sore. The headband, however, stays pretty comfortable. There's no hot spots on the crown, and at 200 grams, they don't feel heavy. So I would say for commuters and short listening sessions, comfort is pretty okay. But if you have larger ears or plan to wear it the entire day, you might want to consider an over ear headphone instead of this on ear headphone. Now, as for compatibility with source gears, I would say is pretty straightforward. These connect via Bluetooth 6.0 to any phone or tablet or laptop. The multi-point connection lets you pair with two devices simultaneously, handy for switching between phone and computer. They support SBC and AAC codecs. That's no aptX or LDAC codecs at this price point, but that's expected. The 3.5 headphone jack means you can use them wired with any source. including budget decks or even airplane entertainment systems. Sensitivity is high enough and they get pretty loud from any phone. Now, let's talk about the sound performance of these headphones. First, the tone and timbre, which is surprisingly natural for the price. Acoustic instruments, they sound like themselves. Guitars have proper string body, pianos have appropriate weight, and vocals don't suffer from excessive coloration. There is a slight warmth throughout that prevents sterility without obscuring the details. Temper accuracy is good, though the upper mid range can occasionally sound thin on certain tracks. Brass instruments can take on a slightly metallic edge when you push it too loud. For electronic and pop music, the tonal balance works pretty well. Now let's talk about the technical performance. First, the soundstage. And I would say for close back on ear, at this price point is pretty okay. It is not going to compete with open backs or large closed backs headphones, but there's a decent sense of width extending slightly beyond the ear cups. Now the presentation is intimate, but not claustrophobic. Think of it of like a small venue rather than a concert hall. For the form factor and price, I would say it's actually better than expected. You're not getting holographic imaging, but you're also not trapped in your head. Now, in terms of sound separation, is better than expected for a $35 headphone. In busier tracks, you can generally distinguish individual elements without everything collapsing into like a muddy mess. The bass doesn't completely overwhelm the mids, and instruments have their own space. It is not crystalline separation that you'll get from multi-driver IEMs or high-end planar headphones, but for casual listening, it's perfectly fine. Now, complex orchestral pieces might get slightly congested, but pop, rock, and electronic music handles pretty well. Now, in terms of imaging, is pretty decent. You can place instruments left, right, and center with reasonable accuracy. The phantom center is fairly solid for vocals. The depth layering is limited. You won't get a deep three-dimensional stage with front to back precision, but left to right positioning is clear enough for gaming and music. For casual gaming, the stereo imaging is perfectly fine, especially if you turn on the low latency mode. Now, in terms of detail retrieval, this is where expectations need to be calibrated. Now, the A1 Pro retrieves macro details pretty well. You won't miss the main elements of a mix. For example, the primary guitar riff, the vocal melody, the drum patterns. But for micro details, for example, the texture of a brush cymbal, the subtle breathiness in the vocal, or the decay of a piano note, well, they're all smoothed over and pretty rounded. Now, the 40 millimeter drivers, they do an admirable job, but there's a limit to what a $35 headphone can deliver in terms of resolution. Now, this is a enjoy the music kind of headphone and not an analyze the music kind of headphone. Now, in terms of resolution, well, I would say it's adequate for the price. These aren't detail monsters, but they don't sound muddy or congested either. The tuning prioritizes listenability over analytical precision, which is a right choice for the target audience. Now, think of it this way: you're getting 720p resolution when flagships offer 4K, but you are paying for a 720p price tag. Now, the image is still clear enough to enjoy, and honestly, for most content, you won't notice what you're missing unless you are directly being with something more expensive. All right, so now let's talk about the sound signature, which I use my ears to evaluate. The sub bass extension is pretty respectable for an on ear design. There's a genuine rumble when called for. Electronic bass drops and cinematic explosions have appropriate impact. The sub bass doesn't dig as deep as larger over ears headphones or well sealed IEMs, but it's pretty controlled and reasonably tight. Now, it's above neutral. in terms of tuning, but it's not cartoonish level kind of sub bass. So you can feel the bass in tracks that demand it, but it doesn't turn it into a muddy mess. Now let's talk about the mid bass, and this is where the warmth comes from. There's a gentle elevation that gives kick drums, body, and bass guitars presence. It can occasionally bleed slightly into the lower mids on bass heavy tracks, but in general, it maintains its decent separation. The elevation adds a sense of fun and engagement that works well for popular genres. This isn't a neutral reference kind of bass. It's a fun bass that makes pop, hip hop, and EDM music enjoyable without becoming too bloated. Now, as for the mid range, it's slightly recessed compared to the bass and treble, following a V shaped curve. Male vocals sit just behind the instruments, while female vocals are slightly more forward. The recess isn't severe. This isn't a distant sounding headphone, but it's noticeable when compared to more neutral sounding headphones. The mids are smooth and free of harshness, making these headphones easy to listen to for long listening sessions without being too fatiguing. Now, in terms of peanut gain, it follows a fairly standard compensation curve, and there's enough presence here to give vocals clarity and guitars their bite, but it's not overly done. And I don't find these shouty or fatiguing in the upper mids, which is a common pitfall in budget headphones. The transition from mid range to treble is fairly smooth, without major dips or peaks that would make vocals sound honky or distant. Now, as for the treble, it is interesting on these. There is a noticeable presence that adds sparkle and air to the top end, but it stops short of being sibilant on most recording. Cymbals have decent shimmer, and hi hats are crisp without being harsh. Extension is limited though. Don't expect ethereal air or micro detail retrieval, but the treble is surprisingly well controlled for the price. On poorly recorded tracks, I would say the upper treble can show some graininess, but it's never piercing or painful to listen to. All right, so that's the overall sound signature of the Focus A1 Pro, and I would say it's a consumer friendly V shaped sound signature that's fun and engaging. Bass is elevated and punchy, mids are slightly recessed but smooth, and treble has enough sparkle to keep things from sounding dull. Now, this is a fun tuning. It's not a reference tuning. It's designed to make your music enjoyable on the go, not to reveal every flaw in the recording. Now, as for the target audience, I would say commuters, students, casual listeners, and gamers. All right, so let's conclude. The One Audio Focus A1 Pro headphones, are they worth buying? Well, I would say yes, if your expectations are realistic. These are not audiophile reference headphones, and they are not trying to be. What they are is a $35 miracle that delivers features that were $100+ a few years ago. Now, the hybrid ANC genuinely works. The 70-hour battery life is ridiculous, and the sound signature is fun and engaging rather than offensive. Now, for students, commuters, budget conscious gamers, or anyone needing a pair of ANC headphones, the Focus A1 Pro comes highly recommended by me. Now, at $35, the question isn't whether these are the best headphones you can buy, but it's whether you can afford not to have a pair. All right, so that's my overall thoughts and opinions about this OneAudio Focus A1 Pro headphones. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and also please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. My name's Ian. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video. Cheers.